When was the last time you felt completely weightless at night? Not just tired or physically drained, but emptied. Like even your breath carried memories that were too heavy to hold. If tonight feels like that, you're not alone. You've arrived here at the edge of silence, where your day finally gives up its grip on you. Everything slows. The phone goes dim. The fridge hums like it's singing to itself, and the air feels thick, like it remembers your thoughts before you say them out loud. There's a reason you're here. Maybe no one noticed what you carried today. Not the stranger who brushed past you at the grocery store, not the coworker who joked while your smile cracked at the edges, but here, now, I see you. And there's something I want to share. It's old. Older than your parents, older than your great-grandparents, older than the idea of America itself. It's a prayer, but not the kind you whisper with hands pressed or heads bowed. It's a poem. It's a map. It's a song sung in caves, whispered by candlelight and echoed from foxholes. And tonight, it belongs to you. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That's how it begins. You probably heard it before, but tonight I want you to hear it differently, like it was written just for you, just for this exact hour when your world is quiet enough to finally let it in. Because not wanting doesn't mean you have everything. It means that you've stopped chasing what can't hold you. It means that for once, you can just be. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. It helps me stay with you through more nights like this one. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it right now? I'd love to know who's out there in the dark with me. Now, turn off the lights, let the fan hum that soft white noise, and let's begin tonight's journey. You lie there, one arm curled under the pillow, wondering if sleep will be kind. Outside, a car door slams in the distance. Somewhere, a dog's single bark is followed by silence.
The song begins to take shape in your mind. A shepherd, a field, a trail. You're not in your room anymore, are you? You're walking, and the ground is soft beneath your feet. Thousands of years ago, when King David supposedly wrote these words, shepherds were the night workers of their time. They weren't glamorous, they smelled like sheep. They kept watch while the rest of the world slept. And yet, it was to them that peace was often promised first. Even in the New Testament, it was shepherds who first heard of Christ's birth. Coincidence? Historians still debate whether David wrote Psalm 23 as a young boy in the hills or as an aging king looking back. Some believe it was born out of trauma, fleeing from betrayal, loss, or regret. But regardless of the author's age, the message remains tender. Someone is watching over you. Strange fact, ancient shepherds used oil, not just for anointing, but to heal wounds on sheep's heads, to keep flies out of cuts and infections from spreading. So when you hear, "He anoints my head with oil," it's not about royalty, it's about care. Gentle, unseen care. And that first line, "The Lord is my shepherd," it flips the script. You're not the strong one here. You don't have to be. You're the one being led, which means you can let go. You don't have to know where this path goes. You don't have to control how the story ends. Even the pharaohs of Egypt, who were buried with gold and ships for the afterlife, still couldn't take peace with them. Because peace isn't carried in your hands. It's carried in your breath. So as your fingers relax and your shoulders melt into the bed, just whisper to yourself, not out loud, just in your chest, "I shall not want." You'll be surprised how heavy that silence feels and how much lighter you'll become once you make room for it. You keep walking. Not fast, there's no need to hurry. The path ahead is soft, like the kind of trail grass makes after being walked 100 quiet times before. And just ahead of you, never far, moves the shepherd. Not some glowing figure in a robe, not a grand statue or icon, just a steady presence. Someone who knows every twist in the terrain and walks a step ahead, not to impress you, but to keep you safe. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. That's the second movement of the psalm. It's not a command, it's an invitation. You've been told to rest before, maybe by someone who didn't understand how hard that is when your mind won't stop spinning. But this line isn't a suggestion to relax. It's a promise that you'll be led to stillness, not shoved into it. Still waters. The kind that reflect your face clearly, not the chaotic shimmer of wind-tossed waves. The kind that don't drown you in sound. The kind that mirror the silence in your heart once all the noise has bled out. A curious historical note: in ancient Israel, green pastures were rare. Most land was dry, rocky, hilly. So when a shepherd found one, it wasn't by accident. It was the result of experience, patience, and persistence. Just like this moment. Just like your arrival here tonight. There's a strange comfort in being led, isn't there? To give up just a little control and trust that maybe not everything depends on your effort. Did you know that during the medieval period, Christian mystics believed the soul wasn't shaped by action, but by attention? Not what you did, but what you turned your eyes and heart toward. So when the psalmist says, "He restores my soul," maybe it's not about rebuilding something that's been shattered. Maybe it's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. He leads you in paths of righteousness, not straight lines or sharp turns, but small, quiet choices. The kind you barely notice, the kind you've already made just by being here, right now, listening. There's a phrase scholars still argue over: "for his name's sake." Some say it means God does this to protect his reputation. Others believe it means your healing is part of something larger, a grander narrative that your life fits into like a thread in a sacred tapestry. The truth is, we may never know. But either way, it's not all on you. You're not the protagonist of every pain. Sometimes you're the soul being gently rerouted back to grace. Remember those nights when you felt like your phone buzzing was the only sign someone remembered you existed? Tonight is not one of those nights. Tonight, the shepherd remembers you, and that's enough. You stretch your legs slightly under the sheet. Your fingers brush the soft edge of the blanket. And for the first time in hours, your breath moves in and out without resistance.
Funny how something written thousands of years ago by a desert wanderer still knows exactly what to say to someone like you. Someone curled up in the quiet glow of a bedroom lamp, listening through earbuds, wondering if they're doing life wrong. But if green pastures still exist, maybe you're doing just fine. And maybe, just maybe, you're already lying in one.
The path bends. You can't see where it goes, but you keep walking anyway. Not because you're brave, not because you're fearless, but because something inside you whispers, "There's more." And then the light dims, the green fades. You feel it before you see it, how the air gets cooler, how the silence sharpens. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. This isn't a poetic flourish. This part is real. It's the moment every soul meets, the dip in the road, the moment your chest tightens and your thoughts become loud and clumsy. Some call it anxiety, some call it despair. The psalmist called it the valley of the shadow of death. But notice this, you walk through it. You don't camp there, you don't build a house, you don't get stuck. You walk through. And strangely, this is the first time in the psalm the speaker stops talking about the shepherd and starts talking to him. You are with me.
Not he is, not there was once someone. No, this is direct, personal, present tense. Because that's how fear works. It forces you to choose, retreat into the past, or reach for something right now. And the psalm says, right now, someone is beside you. Want a weird fact? During the Black Death in the 14th century, people across Europe would recite Psalm 23 while walking through plague-ridden towns. It became the whispered defense of both the devout and the desperate, not because they believed it would magically shield them, but because it reminded them that fear doesn't have the final word. Even Napoleon, during his exile on Elba, reportedly asked for this psalm to be read aloud to him at night. Not a war hymn, not a victory chant. This. And here's a little mystery. Some biblical scholars still debate what shadow of death even means in Hebrew. Is it literal death? Is it deep darkness? Or is it the kind of spiritual disorientation that leaves you feeling like you're not entirely alive? No one agrees. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it means all of it. And still, you will fear no evil. Why? Because presence disarms fear. You don't need a sword. You don't need a plan. You just need witness. Someone walking beside you. Maybe you remember a night when you had to act strong. You didn't cry because someone else needed you not to. You didn't panic because you had no permission to fall apart. But tonight, you don't need to hold it all. You feel the shepherd's rod and staff, not as punishment, but as reassurance. One to guide, one to defend. Tools not of power, but of protection. There's a legend, unconfirmed of course, that during World War I, soldiers in the trenches used Psalm 23 as a password. If someone whispered, "The Lord is my shepherd," the correct reply was, "I shall not want." It wasn't about religion, it was about recognition. Because sometimes what you say in the dark is more about being seen than being right. Tonight, this path is yours. This valley is yours. But so is the hand that leads you through it. You adjust your head slightly on the pillow. The world outside your window seems far away now. And the shadow, it doesn't feel so heavy anymore. Because the voice that's walked with countless generations is walking with you. The darkness doesn't disappear, but something shifts. It's like walking into a room you thought was empty and realizing there's a table set for you. You prepare a table before me, in the presence of my enemies. Wait, what? A table? Right here, in the middle of danger, stress, grief? That's absurd. But maybe not. Maybe it's exactly the kind of absurd your soul needs. Imagine this. You're surrounded by voices, real or imagined, telling you you're not enough. You failed. You missed your chance. You should have done more. You know that choir, don't you? And then a table. A meal. A sign not of survival, but of belonging. This isn't a battlefield. It's a dining room. You're not swinging a sword. You're holding a spoon. You're not running. You're staying. That alone is an act of defiance. In ancient times, sharing a meal was the highest form of trust. If someone prepared food for you, they were responsible for your safety while you ate. Enemies watching? Let them. Your safety wasn't in secrecy, it was in presence. Here's a historical tidbit. During a temporary truce in the American Civil War, soldiers from both sides once shared coffee and stories across a narrow river. Just for a moment, their rifles lowered and something sacred happened. Recognition. That's the kind of table this is. It's not about the food. It's about the fact that even while surrounded by everything that should undo you, you're still upright. You're still here. And then the psalm shifts again. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Let's talk about the oil. It wasn't perfume. It was sacred. In the ancient world, oil marked you as set apart, chosen, seen, blessed. And, odd fact, you know sheep were anointed with oil to protect them from insects crawling into their ears, right? It wasn't ceremonial, it was practical, soothing, healing.
So this moment, it's not a kingly coronation. It's a kind of intimate care. And that overflowing cup, it's not abundance like a bank account. It's not prosperity like a parking spot near the door. It's peace that keeps showing up even after you've given up looking for it. Remember the story of Joan of Arc? Young girl, battlefield, visions. Did you know she once claimed that in the middle of fear, she didn't feel brave but felt full? She couldn't explain it. She just overflowed. That's the kind of cup this is. And still, the psalm doesn't promise that the enemies disappear. It doesn't promise the valley vanishes. It just promises that while it's all still happening, the fear, the shame, the quiet heartbreaks, there's a place set for you, right in the middle of it. A place to eat, a place to breathe, a place to remember that being nourished is not the same as being numb. Academics have tried to dissect this part of the psalm for years. Some suggest the table represents the temple. Others think it's a metaphor for God's justice, a way of declaring you haven't been forgotten. But the power of poetry is that you don't need a single answer. You just need to feel the meaning move through you. So imagine it again. A long wooden table, bread still warm, a drink that never empties, a host who says nothing but looks you in the eye and nods as if to say, "You are safe here." Now breathe. Let your chest rise slowly. Sink into the mattress like it's the first safe thing you've known all day. Because you're not fighting tonight, you're feasting.
The room is warm now. Not hot, but wrapped in that kind of hush that only comes after something sacred has passed through. You lean back just a little, imagining the flicker of candlelight dancing across stone walls. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Wait, didn't we just talk about that? Yes and no. This part of the psalm lingers, like a melody that refuses to end on the expected note. Because sometimes blessings don't come as new things. Sometimes they arrive as repetition, the echo of comfort you didn't know you still needed. Let's look at the oil again. In the Middle Ages, oil was so precious that it was locked in ornate containers called chrismatories. Only priests were allowed to touch them. But here, in this psalm, the oil is personal. It's poured over you, not a bishop, not a king, you. Why? Because you need it. You, the one who feels small when everyone else posts polished happiness. You who's tired of always being resilient. You who need something more than just a cup of tea and positive thinking. This is for you. And that overflowing cup, that's no accident either. In Hebrew poetry, the image of the cup was often linked to fate or destiny. A full cup wasn't just about having enough. It was a sign that your story was still being written, still unfolding, still sacred. Fun fact, during the 18th century, early American colonists used punch bowls the size of small basins during celebrations. Why? Because an overflowing cup meant abundance not just for one, but for everyone in the room. Maybe your cup isn't overflowing with cash or comfort right now, but what if it's overflowing with something deeper? What if it's overflowing with the quiet strength that's carried you this far? The kind of strength that doesn't always roar, but sighs, gets up again, and whispers, "I'm still here." There's a philosophical question debated among theologians. Is the cup overflowing because of what you have, or because of who is with you? Some say it's both. Others insist it's neither, that it's about gratitude, not circumstances. But maybe, tonight, it's just enough to know the cup exists, that something unseen is pouring itself into you slowly, without asking you to perform. And speaking of oil again, did you know that in some ancient cultures, oil was used as a kind of invisible light? Before candles were common, small clay lamps filled with olive oil lit the night. They didn't shine far, but just enough for the next step. Maybe that's what grace feels like, not a floodlight, just enough to see what's in front of you. You adjust your pillow slightly. Your fingers stretch once, then soften. There's something sacred about this stillness, this moment when nothing is expected of you but breath. You've been anointed tonight, not with oil that stains, but with rest that heals. And your cup, it's not leaking, it's not broken, it's still here, still being filled. You're almost at the end of the trail now. The path is flattened. The sky above is deep velvet, not quite black, just the color of ink before it dries. You can feel the night exhale. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. These are not words of wishful thinking. They are not a bargain. They are a declaration. Because what follows you shapes how you walk. And this psalm ends by flipping the fear. No longer are you being chased by stress, shame, or all the deadlines you didn't meet. You're being followed by goodness, by mercy. Like loyal shadows that never leave your side, even when you feel unworthy, even when you think you've blown it again. It's an image that was radical when it was first spoken, and it still is. In a world obsessed with earning, Psalm 23 ends with a promise that isn't based on performance, but presence. Here's something odd. In some ancient Semitic cultures, the idea of being followed by a deity was terrifying. It meant judgment. It meant fear. But here, it means you are never unloved. Remember when we talked about Joan of Arc? Let's bring it closer in time. Did you know that Harriet Tubman reportedly experienced dreams and visions that guided her along the Underground Railroad? She often said she wasn't afraid to sleep in the woods or walk alone at night because she felt a presence with her, one she called the Lord. What she felt, this verse describes. Not pursuit by fear, pursuit by grace. There's an academic debate that still rattles the edges of this psalm. Does dwell in the house of the Lord mean physically being in the temple? Or is it a metaphor for abiding in divine presence wherever you are? Most now agree it's both. The Hebrew word used here suggests not a visit, not a stopover, but a permanent stay. Not an Airbnb faith, not a Sunday-only ritual, but a home. And that's the quiet brilliance of the ending. You've walked, you feared, you feasted, you've been anointed. Now what? You dwell. You stop searching. You let yourself be found. You make your home in something eternal. Not a building, but a belonging. And here's one last little known fact. In early Irish Christian tradition, monks would walk the coastline at dusk, tracing the edge of the known world, whispering prayers as the sea darkened. To them, the house of the Lord wasn't a location, it was every step that brought them back to stillness. Tonight, your bed is that coastline, your breath, that whisper, your body, the sacred ground you've carried through valleys and shadows. So now, slow everything down. Let your limbs grow heavy. Let your mind soften like wax near a candle's glow. Let the weight of expectation dissolve into the mattress. You don't need to be wise. You don't need to be ready. You only need to be here. Let goodness and mercy catch up to you. Let them curl beside you like quiet animals that have never left your side. Because you don't just sleep tonight, you dwell, and you are not alone.